Eddie Frederick has got it all. Inspiration, motivation, great advice, and biting opinion pieces as only Eddie Frederick can deliver. Eddie Frederick has got it all.
If I take time and I write down all the things that I love on my island, best believe the list gon' be like 5 miles long. Best believe it's love that makes me sing this song. The cleanest breeze on the waters, friendly people meet in every corner. Togetherness and love is what we stand for. We stand for, stand for. Oh, island in the sun. Look at how we've grown, how far we've run. 50 years we strong and more to come. More to come, more to come. Going higher. 50 years we're blessed with fortune fire. Still reaching for more. Going up, going up, 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 going up, going up, going up, 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 higher. Going higher. As we aspire, build up ourselves, put people together. Bang, bang, bang. It's only up.
Welcome to Edification, made possible by the efforts of the Center for Democracy and Good Governance, CDGG. The Center for Democracy and Good Governance is a sound organization established to promote and strengthen democracy. For too long now, our generally perceived poorly educated electorate have fallen victim to the cheap and inferior propaganda of those seeking to hold others captive under the guise of democracy. Gladly, the CDGG uses edification to help to actively pursue a sustainable approach to reorient our people towards the importance of electing and selecting people of good character to public life. Through edification, we will highlight the importance of education appropriate to our development, proper health care and facilities as our right, respect for law and order, not to mention upgrading our people's thinking so they could become qualified participants in the democratic process to their advantage. After all, Grenada's national constitution makes allowances for the ideal of free men to enjoy freedom from fear and want, which can be best achieved if conditions are created whereby everyone may enjoy his economic, social and political, civil and cultural rights.
I want the best for my family, so every meal has to be perfect. Every bite has to say, There's no doubt in my mind that the best in frozen meats and vegetables has to come from the Country Cold Store. Hams, turkeys, sausages, beef, pork, chicken. I just know my family is in safe hands. Thank you, Country Cold Store, for being there for us for the past 40 years.
There are some interesting specials available at Country Cold Store's Mini Mart while stocks last. Take advantage of these specials as they assist you to stretch your limited funds.
The Country Cold Store, providing the best in frozen meats and vegetables since 1969.
The hurricane season is now upon us, so we as Caribbean people need to remember to think safety and be prepared. Avoid venturing outside during a storm or hurricane, especially if there are strong winds. Rooftops and other debris are often blown about and can cause great damage.
Attention all forward-thinking companies. Sure, you can do with a continuous positive boost to your image and impact your bottom line. Hiring the right people with the right attitude and mindset is where to start. Even if you did not get it right through your current hiring methods, we can help develop the right mindset for your current employees. If you think training is expensive, try not training, and you will experience a perpetual downward spiral in patronage on account of increased dissatisfied customers. Take things into your hands and engage the best at motivation and customer care training with a tried and tested track record. Visit www.efrederick.com now and learn how you can change the atmosphere in your business and improve the customer experience for everyone who does business with you. Spice Island Beach Resort and Belmont Estate are two such local entities of world renown that have benefited tremendously from ongoing customer care, social skills, and motivation training. Training changes everything for the better for any business and every team member. Enhance employee performance through increased awareness and passion for the job at hand. Greater potential in your workforce awaits you through engaged, high-energy training that works. Log on now, www.efrederick.com.
Eddie Frederick has got it all. Inspiration, motivation, great advice, and biting opinion pieces as only Eddie Frederick can deliver. Eddie Frederick has got it all.
Wonderful, folks. Wonderful, and welcome. Welcome to Edification 239. And of course, our subject today invites us all to pay attention to the company we keep, for fear that we are lumped into a grouping that does not favor us well. Goodly, folks, as soon as you come into the room, as usual, come on, share the live, comment, like, love, do whatever you want, and just interact as you usually do. Great to have you again. Let's keep this community going, growing, and glowing. Our angel number 239. Three powerful numbers, actually. 2, 3, and 9. That combined number 239 is believed to contain the energies and vibration of the numbers 2, 3, and 9. Number 2 symbolizes harmony, balance, and partnerships. Number 3 represents creativity, growth, and self-expression, while number 9 stands for spiritual enlightenment and humanitarianism. Together, these numbers suggest that you are destined to achieve great success and fulfillment in life. Stay focused, folks, and watch your dreams and goals come true. Our topic, show me your company, and I'll tell you who you are. You see that saying? That saying reflects an enduring truth about human behavior. Our social circles, or the company we keep, can be a powerful indicator of our identity, our values, and our aspirations. You ought not dislike anyone for good reasons in real life and hang around them to use them to get to where you want. Though initially focused on personal relationships, the concept can be expanded to encompass a broader societal, psychological, and even professional context. You see, our discourse here today will explore the phrase from multiple perspectives: social, psychological, and of course professional, highlighting how the people we surround ourselves with shape and reflect who we are as individuals. And that is precisely why it is also said that our diet is not only what we eat, but it has to do with whom we associate, what we view on television, who and what we listen to, where we go, and ultimately how we think. Folks, it is quite obvious that if you go around with people who are at similar mediocre levels as you are, you will be the additional one in the group. You will surely catch what they have, as there can be no progress to be made in that circle. This is why I honor the memory of my single-parent mother, who actually taught me to hang out with people brighter than me, so that I can assume some of their brightness and start thinking at a different level to the level I already knew. You see, as God would have it, my friends were for the most part older than me. There were two men in particular, God rest their souls. They helped to shape me into the wise person that I am today, if I may say so myself. You see, one created me, while the other propped me up with his experience and wisdom. Oh, how I miss those two men dearly, for all that they shared with me over the years to help shape the character that is coming to you live and direct every Sunday. You see, I currently have one who is a little older than I am today, who has found a reciprocal way of dealing with me. I had absolutely no idea how much I meant to him until he has articulated this on so many occasions to others, and of course myself, to the point where my confidence has been boosted because I had no idea. You see, even though he's a man of means, he can never say to anyone that I have ever attempted in the smallest of ways to extract anything from him. And that is the bedrock of our well-founded relationship. You see, he trusts my judgment and usually helps others through my trusted hands. We all have needs, folks, and it is for this reason that we must work to take care of our standard of living and quality of life. I work and thank God daily for the opportunities that I am given to do what I do to help change the lives of others so that they too can evolve to enjoy a life that is focused and with purpose to continue to meet their needs while providing adequately for their children. Those who normalize dunceness would never understand this, and they feel everything is about making our money so they could live their wannabe lifestyles. I recall hearing a response given by Oprah Winfrey during an interview when she was asked, "Tell me something, why so many people seem so unhappy in the world today?" You know, she simply said, people are envious and jealous of other people's fake lifestyles. And so the plot thickens, folks. The plot thickens because it's so interesting that Oprah should have opined or even offer that as a response, because the truth is that level of response is so profound, so profound. We see it here every day. Many people whose public display you are bothered by. If only you would take the time to find out the behind the scenes truth, you would slap yourself for ever entertaining the zone of envy, so to speak, and jealousy over their display of fake success. For anyone to be successful, he or she must understand first and foremost that success is not a final destination to arrive at, but a continuous journey. You see, you can purchase a car without a loan, and yes, you are successful at the purchase. But guess what? You can be a failure at maintenance of that same car from the word go because you cannot afford petrol, oil change, tire repair. You cannot afford to even pay the annual insurance to keep it on the road, etc. You see, I've been exposed, folks, to the 8 dimensions of success a very long time now. And you know, those dimensions, they happen to speak to the time you spend reflecting and inflecting, contributing to your real maturity at life. These dimensions typically refer to key areas or facets of life that contribute to overall well-being and achievement. You see, this framework is often used in personal development to create balance and fulfillment across various aspects of life. You see, the dimensions might differ depending on the model, but here's a commonly recognized version. Physical. Maintaining physical health through exercise, nutrition, and rest. Emotional. Managing stress, cultivating positive emotions, and developing emotional resilience. Intellectual. Expanding knowledge, skills, and mental agility through continuous learning and curiosity. This makes you ready and able to speak up because you have something to say and not because you want to say something. Social, building meaningful relationships, strong support systems, and effective communication skills. Spiritual, folks, connecting with values, purpose, and beliefs that provide inner peace and direction. You see, that constant connection with your inner higher consciousness. What about occupational? Finding fulfillment in your career, achieving professional growth, and maintaining a work-life balance. Financial, managing finances wisely, achieving financial stability, and planning for future needs. And of course, the final one, environmental, engaging with and caring for your physical environment, creating spaces that support well-being. These dimensions, folks, emphasize the importance of a holistic approach to success, where balance and growth across all areas are essential for overall fulfillment and happiness. Are we always at one with all 8? Though I think the answer can be yes, I am sure as day that not all of us can keep up with them all of the time. You see, it takes work. Could you imagine when one is mostly focused on the financial without a hint of spiritual, emotional, occupational, intellectual, or even social? What can happen to such person? Folks, that's simple, That person will leave you to conclude that they will do anything for money. This is where a lot of us are as a people right here in Grenada today. And that is not good. Too many of us have little to no regard for our intellectual growth and development, and have become so confidently vocal while putting on display our abject dunceness for all to see. Just take a look at social media, and you will see the many Trumpers among us. Sad, And they don't like Trump. The Grenadian society is regarded as a highly religious one, which is supposed to be mostly Christian. Yet for all, spirituality is sadly lacking in many of our people. You see, many of our people are so focused on religion that they forget to be Christians. And that is precisely why I am totally convinced of a recent post I saw that has become viral. Too many people are way too comfortable with being dunce. A Christian is supposed to be an avowed believer in the ways of Christ. The ways of Christ are not to be observed only, but to be practiced, which makes them doing things and not just saying things. Christianity, therefore, is an action thing. The Bible, which is the operational manual for Christians, has embedded in its pages the purpose of life: to be of service to one another. Yet for all, we who love to be regarded as Christians are so hostile towards serving others. What does that say for us? We prefer to serve our political masters, whether inferior or sophisticated. You see, just by the actions of so many, I can conclude that Grenada is more a diabolical society than ever a Christian one. They're more concerned about the various Christian holidays so they can fete and ramage and end up drunk and tell you what a wonderful time they had. Just look at what Easter weekend has deteriorated to become among us, a so-called Christian society. Good Friday is supposed to be a mark of observance of the crucifixion of Christ. And rewind your mind to see what it has been reduced to by our wider society. The same society that tells you they are a Christian society. You see, after all, Christians were taught that Good Friday and what was supposed to have happened on that day back when it is to be regarded as the most important day on the Christian calendar, as it fulfilled the purpose of the life of Christ and his walk in the flesh on this earth. Where did I learn all of this? Folks, you'd be surprised to know, in school, from Heinzie to Sunday school at the Pentecostal Church on Market Hill, to Presentation Brothers College, according to the Catechism in religious knowledge. These are things that stayed with me up to this day. A lot of the people we see behaving as if they do not know had similar upbringing as me and followed similar path in life's journey. Yet for all, their worship of money and other material possessions have divorced them from their spiritual moorings. Look at how easy it has been for Grenada to become a toxic place where only two of our national colors dominate, with red, oh God, totally ignored. One color is on a mission to destroy the entire country because they are no longer in control of the Treasury's funds. And when the other side pushes back intelligently hard, based on their previous experience during 2008 to 2013 period, the naive, the stupid, and of course the dunce who want to play referee, placing blame equally on both sides while concluding foolishly. I saw an erudite and a very upstandish young lady, corporate lady in town, did a post recently about how Facebook has become such a toxic environment. And she's so correct. But you know what is interesting? You have people who are subscribers of the toxicity chiming in and giving diatribes of long, intellectual verbiage to support her thought. It is so sad. The level of hypocrisy and rubbish in this country is so plural, it's so high, it's so dense. This country could never make progress unless people become the change they want to see. So show me your company, folks, and I'll surely tell you who you are. If a lot of you were paying attention, you would realize that sabotage is coming from all fronts, from the ignorant, the needy and the greedy, who are easily manipulated, and the vultures, of course, who are feeling deprived because they cannot lap up the largesse that they used to enjoy. Take that with you today. Let's take our first break and we'll come back with a lot more. And you see where this is going already, so you know it's a lot more to come.
Eddie Frederick has got it all. Inspiration, motivation, great advice, and biting opinion pieces as only Eddie Frederick can deliver. Eddie Frederick has got it all.
This is Edification, made possible by the efforts of the Center for Democracy and Good Governance, CDGG. The strength of views and opinions expressed during edification are not necessarily a reflection or representation of the sponsors and or affiliates of this program.
The hurricane season is now upon us, so we as Caribbean people need to remember to think safety and be prepared. Avoid venturing outside during a storm or hurricane, especially if there are strong winds. Rooftops and other debris are often blown about and can cause great damage.
Eddie Frederick has got it all. Inspiration, motivation, great advice, and biting opinion pieces as only Eddie Frederick can deliver. Eddie Frederick has got it all.
Oh yes, folks. Oh yes. And for those of you just joining, I want to thank you very much for coming in. As soon as you come in, remember to hit the share button and let's get some more people in the room because there's a lot to discuss today. Good. You know, the toxicity of Facebook, especially, folks, is something that we have control over. I have control over it totally. You know what I do? I put a lot of people to sleep. I put a lot of people on mute because there's no way I want this level of ignorance seeping into my zone of energy. Folks, listen to me. You don't just get happiness when you pay all your bills, you know. You get happiness when you are at peace. So you must work on peace, and happiness inexorably follows. So get peace. There are lots of people you have to put on mute. There are lots of people you have to delete. There are lots of people you have to block forever. Otherwise, you could get dons. The thing is catching, because I have seen it. It's like a plague in Grenada today. You have a lot of young people, and this has been happening over 30 years now. A lot of people went away, studied. They come back as a lawyer, a doctor, a whatever, a businessman. Some people went as far as to have master's degrees. And it is just amazing that as soon as they land back in Grenada, they jump straight in the drain. I don't think they realize that they are called upon with their new thinking, their new level of intellect, to come back and change the conversation. Oh no. As soon as they come back, they jump in the lolly drain with everybody else. And they just happen to have a master's degree. Oh, that's the travesty. Anyhow, enough on that. Welcome back, folks. And those of you just joining, hit that share button. Let's get some more people in the room, because we have a lot of ground. As a matter of fact, today is going to be a little overextended, because there's certain things I just need to say. You get the message? You hear? The stress is on need. I just need to say today. Folks, I have many experiences just by paying attention to things and people around me to convince me that Grenada is not a real place, far less to be a religious or even a Christian society that it would like the world to believe it is. Hell no. When people attend any function, they are happy to remain at the back. When the Bible they love to quote and quote tells them, as Christians and children of the Most High, we were born to be at the head and not at the tail. Isn't that fascinating, folks? We were born to be at the head and not at the tail. Yet for all, you find a lot of people quite happy to be at the tail. What does that say? What does that say? It says a lot. We are not paying attention to really being Christians. Life expectancy, according to the biblical prescription, is supposed to be 70. Yet for all, apart from, of course, accidental death and other acts of God, the wayward way many of us live, we cannot even reach 70. Only recently, the life expectancy for Grenadians moved from 69 to a little over 70. And thank God kayaks live long, kayaks and Petit Martinicans. Because if they didn't live long, that average would have been lower. These are telltale signs that serious introspection is needed in this civilization. The vicarious way in which we live is not working. Our focus as a nation is too much on the mundane stuff, which puts us out of sync with the holistic approach to success. Folks, we're not getting the memo, you know. We are just not getting the memo. You see, our people are just too hell-bent on proceeding without structure and order, and want to constantly blame others for the chaos in their lives. But folks, our holistic approach to success requires us to focus on balance and growth across all areas of the 8 dimensions of success. Otherwise, there could be no overall fulfillment and happiness. Folks, we make a living by what we get. But we make a life, and I dare say a better life, by what we give. So let's try and do some giving now, folks. Let's try and do some giving now. We really and truly have to think. What do we want to get out of life? If we seek great things out of life, trust me, we have to do great things as we reap what we sow. For a long time, I was in the sowing seed quadrant of life and never stopped. If at all this season I am in is the reaping. Hey, I paid my dues. Folks, and I'm sharing this from my point of view. But if you can identify with this, just holler at yourself. Tap yourself on the shoulders because you paid your dues. You see the stories in the same Bible, again, about Job, David, and of course, Joseph. These stories underscore this. One season for sowing and one season for reaping, as there is a time and a place for everything. You see, the level of focus I have developed over the years to stick to my purpose has actually built the power of discernment within me. Living while being a total slave to spirituality has built in me the ability to keep my attention, on vibes, energy, and frequency in everything and everyone around me. And that is why I always have the last laugh at people who feel I feel they are my friends, when in truth and in fact, they are just scared to be my enemy. Folks, that's interesting, eh? A lot of people, they're scared to be your enemy. That's why they want you to feel that they are your friend. You see, with the power of the universal God on our side, we can live anywhere and survive well. You see, I subscribe to Lisa M. Lilith saying. Her saying goes like this. When asked how I lived in the company of monsters, I said, they did not know they too were amongst a beast. Isn't that interesting? When asked how I lived in the company of monsters, I said, they did not know they too were amongst a beast. And that is so profound, my people. Folks, we are what we repeatedly do. And if we make excellence our standard, it will not be regarded by us as just an act, but it will be our habit. You see, the same applies to ignorance and mediocrity. So we have to choose wisely. Our associations and relationships can either aid positive outcomes in our lives or negative results. Remember, please, show me your company and I'll tell you who you are. Let me share a letter I received recently, which helps to put things into perspective for us on a matter of current affair. Dear Mr. Frederick, this is a short note I would like to have you ventilate on your well-listened to edification program. I have not heard any comment from you on the issue of teachers and the stalemate with the age-old late payment to the new entrants, which can run to as long as 90 to 120 days. This has always been unacceptable. But the chickens have come home to roost, and we have decided enough is enough. The truth is, Mr. Frederick, as it relates to us as a body collective, we are happy that we now have a government that is willing to treat with us as we have never been treated with in the past period of 1995 to 2022, for the most part, as you like to say. That said, though, I can tell you for a fact that there is a concerted effort to stymie the new administration's well-placed and much-needed transformation agenda. I am in rooms where many people are not because of who I am. I am one of those people who do not wear my political interest on my sleeve and have never voted for nonsense, one way or other. I am a true teacher who take my vocation seriously. In fact, I am no longer on the front line, but still active in the noble profession. There are public servants, the teaching profession included, who are very engaged in pushing the agenda to sabotage the Deacon Mitchell administration because of what they grew accustomed to for the overextended period of the last administration. Their suffering and regular combative behavior is all they know. And so they are, according to a recent post I saw by one Alistair Amede. Quote, Grenada is experiencing withdrawal from its powerful, potent green opium, unquote. Could you imagine my daughter, who is also a teacher on assignment elsewhere, where she would have access to two areas, the public service and teachers, was actually privy to a discussion that disturbed her. She related it to me, and in her distress, wondered when will this nation ever make meaningful progress to match its years of independence. The people in the discussion she thought better of and remained silent because of her apolitical nature, which influences her to do like me, vote sensibly when the time comes, but not get sucked into the usual bloodbath of political discussions. I am so glad that she learned well, and so far, like her mother, she has never been embroiled in who say, them say. Could you imagine what unsettled her? She said the discussion was led by two individuals, one a teacher and the other a public servant, with the other people on the scenes joining in to echo the direction of the discussion. Could you imagine two union operatives were in total agreement with the direction of the discussion as it fed right into them and their fight for relevance because of their scare that the corporate lawyer, to use their words, could have something up his sleeves to render them useless altogether. So the elements in both areas, teaching and public service, that are sympathetic to the opposition are intent on floating issues relating to the new entrant teachers and their delayed payment, as a first issue to rattle the cage of the government, which they expect to be resolved, regardless of the reason for the delayed remittances. The next issue is the one related to the regularization of public servants and pensions. In both unions, especially the Public Workers Union, they have a real ally, as they are very concerned about relevance in this changing environment, where they fear the candor of the corporate lawyer turned politician and now sitting prime minister may have something up his sleeves to render them totally useless altogether. The sabotage is real, and as long as no consequence or no disciplinary measures are taken to address these politically minded teachers and public servants responsible for the inferior nature of both working environments, the deterioration will continue, and our goose as a nation is cooked. Mr. Frederick, I don't know what your take on the issue is, but I'm sure with the high regard you hold the teaching vocation in, I look forward to the balance you will bring to the discussion. All the best, sir, as I look forward to your sharing this short note as part of your efforts to edify our nation. Thanks in advance for including it. Bye. Hello. I will always stand with teachers of this country who have a right to be disgruntled, not only about when they receive their pay, but with the nonsense curriculum and stone-aged teaching methods that continue to churn out functionally illiterate and unprepared minds for life, let alone our working environments, in tandem with our direction for economic development, tourism, and agriculture. This is where our discussion should be, and not on an age-old anomaly that is being used as a political football today by the resultant infantile and puerile minds that lead discussions on the teacher's plight. All over social media, that is. I was a teacher for a short period and made a choice not to proceed because of several reasons, to include, of course, the remuneration package. For years, I had a radio program to honor the importance of teaching on the radar of our people, called Teaching from the Heart. Did it achieve its stated objective? I'm not too sure. Not even the Teachers Credit Union acceded to a request for sponsorship, and that told me all I needed to know about us. You see, from all back then, who one was perceived to support politically had everything to do with whether others do business with you or not. And even the Teachers Credit Union was a part of that back then. Folks, I still revere teachers and respect them dearly, holding them in the highest regard. You know why? Teaching is the profession that teaches all professions. But when I see the posts of people known to be teachers instigating wrong things which are totally beneath the level of a teacher, I shudder to think that decent people's children have to be tutored by that kind. One thing I know for sure, inasmuch as this issue may have been used in an attempt to bring the progressive, worker-friendly Deacon Mitchell administration to its knees, I believe it got even the attention of the architects of the sabotage within the Ministry of Education, who are among the inefficient ones over the years who refuse to fix it. But isn't that interesting? It put them under the spotlight. And oh, how God has a way of interceding and fixing things even through the disruptors themselves. You see, I want to underscore a suggestion, probably one of the very few sensible ones shared during all the mass exhibition of abject dunceness on social media platforms recently regarding the justifiable actions of our teachers. Folks, you heard what I said, eh? And this is not a mistake. Regarding the justifiable action of the teachers. Finley Jeffrey, the scholar's response. Quote, "The fact that this has been happening for donkey years speaks to a deeper problem. I have advocated for years for the setting up of a teaching service, an arm of the Ministry of Education staffed with teachers, members of the GUT, the Grenada Union of Teachers, tasked with the responsibility to administrate teachers' personnel business, salary, leave, appointments, etc. Because having public officers administering teachers' business is an anomaly. That is where the solution needs to start. Could you imagine teachers dragging their feet to administrate their own business? And in the likelihood that they do, who does their union curse or blame? Its members, of course. And teachers are well qualified to perform those duties. There are teachers with master's degrees in human resource management, in accounting, and other finance-based subjects. In fact, the majority of staff of the Department for Personnel Administration are teachers taken straight out of the classroom. Food for thought, unquote. Now, that's the kind of discussion this issue should evoke. Not who come from Nigeria work in Obia, who is the largest CBI agent in Grenada, who is accusing who of all what the old nastiness and crew were and still are guilty of, and are vexed they are not around to continue unabated, getting envious and jealous people to believe them, and now turning these nonsense on the members of the new administration as if they are really true, etc., etc., etc. You see, remember what I told you some time ago. I am a forever Garyite whose disdain for the old nastiness has always benefited the NDC and more so now, the NDC party led by my friend and brother, Prime Minister Deacon Mitchell, the decent Mitchell. As long as he's at the helm of the organization, the NDC as a political party will benefit from my disdain for Satan's grandson and his goons. Teachers must protest. As longest rope has an end, and they are fed up, and with the new atmosphere where they are free to protest without fear of recrimination and even docking of their salaries, now is the time to tidy things up. Another sensible piece of literature I read during all of the yang by all the dunces of the society came from a young man, Fimba Thomas. Quote, "These same so-called union leaders enabled a broken system in the past and now want to play heroes. I was the youngest vice president. I pointed out many discrepancies from the past administration and they shut me out. Example, the pension issue. I preached to them over and over. The Disqualification Act was illegal, and having consultations with the past administration to illegally join government and NIS pension was illegal. I told them, take the government to court. They shut me down. A year later, the same unions took the government to court and won the case. We have to start nipping things in the bud before they get out of control. The system has been broken for years, but the union leaders conveniently addressed issues. They are no different from politicians. They react for likes and votes to stay in leadership. Workers, wake up. You want representation that will foster good relationships so you can get most of what you need." Unquote. Wow. Yet we can see the hypocrisy today where the union leaders crowd their members with noise. And while they are distracted with the noise, they slip in amongst the noise a demand for increase in dues come 2025. As a bargaining agent for workers, they do not want their members to make a 3% contribution to their pension going forward, while the government matches it. But they are intent on securing an increase in monthly contributions for membership of the said union from the said members. Workers, wake up now. You see how easy it has been for Grenada to become a toxic place where only two of our national colors dominate, with red totally ignored. One color is on a mission to destroy the entire country, while they are no longer in control of the Treasury's funds. And when the other side pushes back intelligently hard, based on their previous experience during 2008 to 2013 period, the naive, stupid, and dunce who want to play referee, placing blame equally on both sides, while concluding foolishly. Show me your company, and I'll tell you who you are. If a lot of you were paying attention, you would realize that sabotage is coming from all fronts. Ignorant, needy, and greedy who are easily manipulated, and the vultures who are feeling deprived because they cannot lap up the largesse they used to enjoy. Take that with you today, my dear folks. Let's take another break, and we come back with a lot more.
Eddie Frederick has got it all. Inspiration, motivation, great advice, and biting opinion pieces as only Eddie Frederick can deliver. Eddie Frederick has got it all.
This is Edification, made possible by the efforts of the Center for Democracy and Good Governance, CDGG. The strength of views and opinions expressed during edification are not necessarily a reflection or representation of the sponsors and/or affiliates of this program.
The hurricane season is now upon us, so we as Caribbean people need to remember to stay especially if there are strong winds. Rooftops and other debris are often blown about and can cause great damage.
Oh, island in the sun. Look at how we've grown, how far we've run. 50 years we strong and more to come. More to come. More to come. Going higher. 50 years we're blessed with motion fire. Still reaching for more. Going up, going up, 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 going up, going up, going up, 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 higher. Going higher. As we aspire, build up ourselves, put people together. Bang, bang, bang. It's only up.
Eddie Frederick has got it all. Inspiration, motivation, great advice, and biting opinion pieces as only Eddie Frederick can deliver. Deliver. Eddie Frederick has got it all.
Oh, yes, folks. 3% of your salary goes towards a contributory pension plan for the future. And you say the economic situation, it's too hard for workers to contribute for their future, while you bring your rates up because the economic time's too hard for you to continue on this, the monthly subscription that they, or membership fees that they pay you. So things hard for you, so you siphon them, but you want no competition. But they must not contribute something for themselves, which is for their own benefit, for a good future, a gratuity and a pension for their future. Folks, something had to be wrong with that. Something has to be wrong fundamentally with that. Folks, welcome back. For those of you just joining, thank you for joining. Hit the share button as soon as you come in, and let's do this because we have a lot of turkeys to fry. Goodly folks, the next issue we have to stand by to help the well-meaning government weather is the second phase of the relevance-seeking dying public workers union, who are hell-bent on settling the nation with pension reform and regularization of workers as they want it. Not as it should be, as they want it, while they issue notice for an increase of their monthly dues without any care for how it affects their members in the same state of the national economy that they say their workers can't afford to make a contribution to their very pension. Let us all stand by to protect the national purse, because the purse belongs to us from these self-seeking publicists and I dare say vandals. Enough said on that. Last year, we went through the issue of October 19th launch of National Heroes Day. All and sundry ought to have known that it was coming again this year, as the same procedures obtained. Just a little note to all, including our members of the Royal Grenada Police Force. There will be an October 19th in 2025, in 2026, in 2027, and so on. Yes, we know you are part of the general population too. So all we ask is for you to pay attention and remain conscious so as to help this nation move away from majoring in minor with fumbling, mumbling, and jumbling. Enough on that too, because I do not want to have to comment on the nature of our people to not have their priorities together. Why, for the life of me, would people whose standard of living and quality of life is nowhere desirably would place an interest in rum and party over first getting their lives together? The vultures of the society are no better than the manipulating politicians to come up in the middle and siphon these people while they themselves do well and the rest of the nation can go to hell. I said what I said, and it's that. I said earlier in today's sharing, the saying, show me your company and I'll tell you who you are, reflects an enduring truth about human behavior, folks. Our social circles or the company we keep can be a powerful indicator of our identity, values, and aspirations. From where I sit, having withdrawn from wider society, I am really having a serious view. Though initially focused on personal relationships, the concept can be expanded to encompass a broader societal, psychological, and even professional context. This sharing today will seek to highlight how the people we surround ourselves with shape and reflect who we as individuals are. You see, the people we hang out with, our social circles, are not only a reflection of our identity, but also a force that can shape who we become. Whether we realize it or not, the people we spend time with influence our values, our behavior, and even our self-perception. Therefore, the company we keep is both a mirror and a mold, showing others and ourselves who we are today and who we may become tomorrow. It's difficult to justify why anyone should insist on joining or supporting a political organization that perpetuates poverty and ignorance among its members. Political organizations exist to represent the interests of their constituents, and their primary function should be to improve the quality of life for the people they serve, socially, economically, and of course politically. In an organization, if it fails to do this, listen to me folks, and instead keeps its members in poverty and ignorance, it ought to raise serious ethical and practical concerns among any thinking person, if there are any left among us. Because there are people who are qualified and you're seeing them lining up to go behind an organization that is known to perpetuate poverty and vulnerability among its members. There are several reasons why supporting such a political organization is problematic, followed by potential explanation for why people may still choose to support these groupings. To begin with, betrayal of responsibility. Political organizations are supposed to be vehicles for social change, development, and empowerment. If a group is keeping its members in poverty and ignorance, it is fundamentally failing in its responsibilities. The purpose of politics should be to improve the welfare of the people, provide opportunities for economic growth, and foster education and enlightenment. Supporting a group that neglects or actively works against these goals is akin to accepting or enabling the exploitation of the most vulnerable. Folks, insisting on supporting such a group may mean endorsing the very structures that keep people disadvantaged. Poverty and ignorance often lead to a cycle of dependency, where the people rely on the political organization for handouts and minimal survival rather than true empowerment. And could you imagine an organization that fits that description? Betrayal of responsibility. Want to tell you they're coming to rescue you. They want to rescue you from the chance you have of moving up in your life to hold you and put you back on the vote farm so that you can be eternally poor and vulnerable. What about manipulation and control? Organizations that thrive on keeping their members in poverty and ignorance often use manipulation and control to maintain power. You see, ignorance can make it easier for leaders to exploit people, either by spreading misinformation, making false promises, or using fair tactics. Poverty, in turn, limits people's choices and keeps them dependent on that organization for basic needs, making it difficult for them to leave or oppose that said group. You see, supporting such an organization, therefore, means becoming complicit in this manipulation. It allows the leaders to maintain their grip on power without being held accountable for the harm they are causing their very followers. What about stagnation and lack of progress? You see, an organization that keeps its members in a state of deprivation is not creating the conditions necessary for personal and societal growth. Poverty stifles innovation, restricts access to education, and limits opportunities for advancement. You see, ignorance in turn prevents people from understanding their rights, demanding accountability, and making informed decisions. Supporting such an organization only reinforces this stagnation, preventing meaningful progress, both for individuals and society at large. You see, in the long run, it can lead to a wider gap between the governing elite and the general population, perpetuating what? Inequality and division. What about perpetuation of injustice? Political organizations that fail to address the root causes of poverty and ignorance often perpetuate injustice. And this, of course, can include economic exploitation, unequal access to resources, and systemic corruption. You see, the leaders usually enrich themselves, while the majority of their members remain trapped in hardship. Supporting these kinds of groups means tolerating or even endorsing systems of injustice that are deeply harmful to society as a whole. You see, for people who value fairness, justice, and equality, it becomes ethically indefensible to continue supporting such an organization. What about missed opportunities for real change? You see, continuing to support a political organization that does not serve the best interests of its followers closes the door to alternative solutions or groups that could provide real change. There are often other political movements or organizations that aim to tackle the issues of poverty and ignorance head on. By sticking with a dysfunctional organization, people miss the chance to invest in leadership and policies that could actually improve their lives. But why do people still support these organizations, or an organization that is inherently led by dishonest people? Why? You see, despite these issues, many people still support political organizations that fail to serve them properly. There are several reasons for this, often rooted in complex social, psychological, and economic factors. Lack of awareness. In many cases, ignorance isn't just a consequence, but also a tool used by corrupt and crooked political leaders to maintain control. If people are denied access to proper education, independent media that makes sense while dispensing accurate, well thought out and balanced and analyzed information, they may not realize that better alternatives exist or understand the full extent of their exploitation. You see, the local green political organization use a system of patronage where they are known to provide small, short-term benefits like food, jobs, and the drizzles of financial handouts to keep their supporters perpetually dependent on them when they were in office. You see, this creates a sense of loyalty, even though the organization does not improve their long-term prospects, which is what they should have been doing in the first place. You see, in our small-minded and therefore insecure political environment, people may fear if they support an alternative group, this will lead to retaliation or even persecution. Authoritarian organizations like the National Nasty Party, or better put, that corrupt political system, often punish dissent or opposition, which can make it dangerous for individuals to break away from the party or organization's spell. In this case, people may support or stay loyal to such political grouping, not out of conviction, but out of fear. We see public servants who are beholden to the old nastiness for their positions, of course, which they have no capacity for. They remain loyal to the old nastiness all the way. You see, in some regions, political loyalty is tied to identity, tradition, and cultural factors. Family, community, or tribal affiliations can lead individuals to support a political organization, regardless of its effectiveness. Garyism is one example. I nursed it from my devoted mother, and up to this day, I feel beholden to Garyism. Thank God I was never, and up to this day, not a stupid one to fall for anything currently on offer. Political organizations that keep their members in poverty and ignorance often employ misinformation and propaganda to maintain their influence. You see, by controlling the narrative, they can blame external factors for poverty and present themselves as the only viable option for leadership, exhibiting absolutely no intention to hand over. You see, some people support these organizations because they genuinely believe that change will come eventually. The nation rather, has seen a leader who made grand promises of reform on economic growth time and time again. And even though these promises went unfulfilled, the hope for a better future keeps people loyal to them and their organization. But these promises were not just promises. They were outright lies by the liar in chief, but they remain loyal to that inferior style of leadership. So while the reasons for continuing to support political organizations that perpetuate poverty and ignorance may be varied and complex, it is clear that doing so often works against the interests of individuals and, of course, the society as a whole. Such organizations, led by inherently selfish individuals, often rely on manipulation, control, and a lack of accountability to maintain control and power, rather than striving for the real empowerment of their members. So instead of supporting political groups that fail to address poverty and ignorance, individuals should seek out alternatives that prioritize education, economic development, and ethical leadership. You see, real change comes from political movements that are accountable to their constituents and are dedicated to creating an informed, empowered population capable of demanding justice, equality, and sustainable progress. You see how easy it has been for Grenada to become a toxic place where only two of our national colors dominate, with red totally ignored. One color is on a mission to destroy the entire country because they are no longer in control of the Treasury's funds, when the other side pushes back intelligently hard based on their previous experience during 2008 to 2013 period. The naive, stupid, and dunce who want to play referee, placing same blame equally on both sides while concluding foolishly. Folks, show me a company and I'll tell you who you are. If only a lot of you would be paying attention. If you would only pay attention, you would see what I see and you would hear what I hear. But you know what it is? As Voltaire said, there's none so blind as he who would not see. And of course, using the ears as a second sense or ability to sense, hearing. There's none so deaf as he who would not hear. Let's take a break and we come back with our final segment. Final segment, folks. Ooh, this one will be a pretty long segment, so hold fast, because lots are coming. Lots are coming your way here today, folks. We're making no joke. We're pushing back hard and intelligently hard at that, because dunceness is becoming a way of life in Grenada, and we should not let it absorb us all.
Eddie Frederick has got it all. Inspiration, motivation, great advice, and biting opinion pieces as only Eddie Frederick can deliver. Eddie Frederick has got it all.
This is Edification, made possible by the efforts of the Center for Democracy and Good Governance, CDGG. The strength of views and opinions expressed during edification are not necessarily a reflection or representation of the sponsors and/or affiliates of this program.
The hurricane season is now upon us, so we as Caribbean people need to remember to think safety and be prepared. Avoid venturing outside during a storm or hurricane, especially if there are strong winds. Rooftops and other debris are often blown about and can cause great damage.
Oh, I am in the sun. Look at how we've grown, how far we've run. 50 years we strong and more to come. More to come. More to come. I'm going higher. 50 years we're blessed with fortune and fire. Still reaching for more. Going up, going up, 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 going up, going up, going up, 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 up. Going higher. Going higher. As we aspire, build up ourselves, put people together. Bang, bang, bang. It's only up.
Eddie Frederick has got it all. Inspiration, motivation, great advice, and biting opinion pieces as only Eddie Frederick can deliver. Eddie Frederick has got it all.
Oh man, as the Germans would say, wunderbar. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. And this being our final segment, I'd like to thank you for coming in the room today. And those of you who just joined, I see some of you apologizing for being late. Of course, remember to take your seat at the back of the class and stand on the bench too, because you're late. But of course, you can always go back into the archives and get a rerun. Okay, so continue to share, so that as many people as possible can be privy to this very important edition here today. So welcome back. Folks, listen to this. Ignorant individuals, particularly those who are vocal, they often gravitate toward political organizations led by questionable characters for a variety of reasons. You see, these reasons include manipulation, psychological tendencies, lack of critical thinking skills, and the exploitation of human emotions by unscrupulous leaders. There are those who, having been ignored by the leader of the organization they would like to identify with, of course, they take and gravitate to former enemies to lambaste the leader who hurt their feelings and bruised their ego. Let's explore why this phenomenon occurs. You see, political organizations led by questionable characters, they often exploit ignorance as a tool to maintain power. They usually go out of their way to blame the wrong sources for economic problems, offering an easy scapegoat. This narrative is sure to resonate with individuals who don't have the wherewithal, let alone information to understand the more complex economic factors at play. An evil leader tends to use slogans and emotional rhetoric to stir up party faithfuls, presenting themselves as the only one who can protect the nation, even while they present no sound policy that is not detrimental in the long term. You see, what does this do? Leads to personally thieving and getting rich. Because that's all evil leaders are intent on doing, especially if they have a faceless, nameless monster pushing them that want to build big building in the south or wherever without a mortgage. Joke you're making. Folks, a political figure may spread false statistics or conspiracy theories, and dunce vocal supporters help to spread this misinformation without realizing its inaccuracy, believing that they are defending a noble cause. We even see this happening with envious and jealous people posing as advocates who lost their turn and are today attempting to destroy whose turn it is with innuendos and infantile and puerile accusations. A political group might cultivate a social media environment where only their supporters' viewpoints are amplified, making it seem like their distorted version of reality is the only truth, while dissenters are labeled as enemies and traitors. You see, a leader might promise to provide jobs, fooling the people to think government gives jobs without explaining the full economic consequences, when in truth and in fact, government is supposed to provide an enabling environment and atmosphere for job creation. You see, interestingly, Dunn's vocal supporters and followers usually echo this promise without understanding its impracticality. You see, a political leader might stoke fears about immigration, claiming that CBI, citizenship by investment citizens, are taking their land. People are brought in to take jobs or endangering the culture, even if there is no factual basis for these claims. Vocal, fearful supporters will then repeat these claims loudly, believing they are under threat. And so, ignorant individuals who are vocal in their support of political organizations led by questionable characters often volunteer to be victims of manipulation, emotional appeal, and a lack of critical thinking skills. You see, inferior leaders exploit fear, group identity, and misinformation to maintain control over their base. You see, despite damaging effects of these organizations, vocal ignorance persists because of deep psychological, social, and emotional factors that bind individuals to these inferior groups. Good. Things like these I always like to post in the comment section so you can have access to them, because that's a reality, folks. You see, education, critical thinking, and open dialogue are key to breaking the cycle of ignorance and preventing unscrupulous leaders like Satan Grandson, Tropical Trump, or even the old nastiness from maintaining power through manipulation. Folks, I want to end here today with a short piece of Grenada's history, taken from chapter 11 of my still unpublished book, This Is My Island. It is so sad that 62% of the population of Grenada is under 35 years old. The median age is 32. And so many people still have not heard of this history, the recent history. This thing is vexing, you know. And this evil con man has been around the precincts of leadership of this country, the longest in a post-independence era. And not a word was ever shared about the history of Grenada. Could you imagine that? Folks, the collapse of the revolution is my chapter 11. And this segment here is called Maurice Bishop Placed Under House Arrest. It seemed to have started with the violent disagreement and split in the ranks of the Politburo and the Central Committee, with Orel members seemingly having the greatest say. The army moved on the side which Bernard Cord was said to be the leader of in the power struggle with Bishop. On the evening of Wednesday, October 12, 1983, the Prime Minister, Maurice Bishop, was placed under house arrest. Foot soldiers like Selwyn Strawn Minister of Mobilization then, was reported to have been seen on foot moving from workplace to workplace in St. George's, telling workers that Bernard Cord had taken over as Prime Minister, since Bishop was no longer capable of running the government. The response was that of rejection and spontaneous shouts, "We don't want Cord." Bishop was accused of not being a true revolutionary, and Grenadians were reminded that the army would tolerate absolutely no manifestation of counter-revolutionary activities. Bishop's house arrest was for 6 days at his official residence at Mount Weldale. Sadness coupled with confusion ruled the minds of Bishop's supporters. It was to them, as one man put it, changing the chief without informing the tribe. People, for the most part, were prepared for anything except to agree to having Bernard Cord replace Maurice Bishop. They therefore took to the streets and demonstrated in their numbers. A source close to what is now regarded as reformed RMC elements is recorded as having said that during Bishop's incarceration, efforts were made to keep him as far as possible from the resident Cuban ambassador Julian Rizzo. A coming together of both could have sparked a decisive response from the Cubans, who may have acted similarly as they did to the opposition in Angola in response to the appeal for help by the Cuban-backed president. The worst could have happened, since the Cuban construction workers at Point Saline were generally believed to be men from the front line in Angola, who were using this airport construction assignment to reorient themselves before returning to Cuba. The fervor with which opposition to the thought of Bernard Cord's assuming leadership of Grenada was received forced him, Bernard Cord, to resign the position of Minister of Finance and Trade. An additional reason given related to the rumor that he and his wife were plotting to kill Maurice Bishop, which he termed a vicious lie. An announcement came on Radio Free Grenada, the official mouthpiece of the People's Revolutionary Government, that followed the announcement of the resignation of Minister of Finance and Trade, that Mr. Nazim Burke, an economist, had been appointed Minister of Finance. More speculation mounted as things became even more unclear. Unison Whiteman, the PRG's Minister of Foreign Affairs, was on official business in the US and in transit in Barbados while on his way back home. On Saturday, 15th October, Kenrick Radix, Minister of Fisheries and Agro-Industries, attempted to stir up things a little with a small crowd through the streets of St. George's asking businesses to close their doors in support. He was later arrested by the armed forces. Not only were the people of Grenada confused, but the rest of the region and indeed the world. Never mind the length of time General Hudson Austin took on radio to relate what he hoped may have quelled the people's skipping spirits. More on sympathy for Maurice Bishop was evoked, and of course people preferred to accept Bishop as against Cord. The people were eager to take matters into their own hands, and although there were no means of mobilization, the masses mobilizing the masses other than word of mouth. People's restlessness created assemblies of small groups all over the Tri-Island state. School children were in the forefront of reaction to the situation. All this time, the radio station was making several announcements relating to no tolerance for anyone who attempts to disturb the peace. That did not deter the people of Grenada, who stood firm and rose up in their numbers on October 19th, 1983. Again, students spearheaded the 9 a.m. mass demonstrations up Lucas Street to Mount Weldale, the official residence of the revolutionary leader. In the forefront of the crowd was Unison Whiteman, who had by this time returned to Grenada, although he was advised against it by close friends in Barbados. The chaos of the ensuing period contributed to the spontaneous and steady growth of the crowd of demonstrators. Up to the time, the street march with chants that "we want we leader," there was no hint that the demonstrators had planned to bulldoze their way into the heavily fortified residence to release their leader from house arrest. One thing led to another, and although the sentry fired shots over the heads of the demonstrators in an effort to frighten them off, they were overpowered, and both Maurice Bishop and his Minister of Education, Jacqueline Kreft, were freed. It was quite noticeable that the chant of the demonstrators had changed to "we get we leader." This must have created some measure of panic on the part of the hardline Marxists, Leninists. The crowd then led their rescued leader to Fort Rupert, which is now Fort George, where he sought refuge and was treated medically by nurses from the General Hospital, to include Ann Peters. Speculation is rife that treachery was involved in the move to bring Bishop to Fort Rupert, now Fort George. The close to 25,000 people in St. George's that day were divided between the Market Square and Fort Rupert. The arrival of BTR-60 armored personnel carriers loaded with soldiers and dangerous ammunition was met by loud cheers, which was soon muffled by the sound of heavy artillery fire. Excuse me. Shooting ensued, and the thousands of people up at Fort Rupert found themselves scampering for cover. The adrenaline rush was so powerful that people jumped 40-foot walls like they were stepping over a rock in a yard, while others had a greater challenge to scale much higher walls. Critical cases were admitted to the General Hospital just below, while the unfortunate leapt to their death. Later on that day, Prime Minister Maurice Bishop, Jacqueline Kreft, Minister of Education, Unison Whiteman, Minister of Foreign Affairs, Norris Bain, Minister of Housing, Vincent Noel, Vice Minister for National Mobilization, Fitzroy Bain, Trade Unionist, Evelyn Maitland, Mechanic, Keith Halen, Worker, were executed against a wall on which was written, "Towards greater discipline in the People's Revolutionary Army." The full list of those massacred is still unknown. The horrible events of October 19th climaxed with an announcement which was made by General Hudson Austin in a rather shaky voice at around 9:10 p.m. He announced the execution of the Bishop faction of the cabinet and made no mention of the other civilians who lost their lives or were badly injured as a result of the unthinkable act of violence against the people of Grenada. He announced a 24-hour curfew, mispronouncing the word curfew, which at least triggered a bit of a laugh in such a trying time by, of course, the light-hearted. Anyone seen outside of their homes was to be shot on sight. A 16-man Revolutionary Military Council, RMC, was formed with General Hudson Austin as chairman, was also announced to take charge of the country's affairs. The other members of the RMC were Lieutenant Colonel Liam James, head of intelligence and member of the Central Committee; Ewart Lane, member of the Central Committee; Tan Bartholomew and Ian St. Bernard, both members of the Central Committee; Chris Stroud, major in the PRA, People's Revolutionary Army; Major Keith Roberts, Major Basil Guy Hagan, Captain Lester Redhead, Major Huey Romaine, Ashley Ram Folks, Rudolph Ogilvie, Ayman Abdullah, Raymond Nelson, Kenrick Fraser, and Leon Cornwall. It is believed that the other members of the Central Committee who worked closely with the RMC were Bernard Cord, his wife Phyllis scored, and Selwyn Strawn. The events as they unfolded would have no doubt horrified the outside world and must have helped to speed up the actions which followed. The 4-day curfew caught many without food in their homes, and the granting of a 4-hour reprieve, though welcomed, was nowhere close to adequate to obtain what was needed, since the queues at all shops and supermarkets were much, much too long. Folks, of course, you know, next Sunday would be 2 days after the 25th, which is Thanksgiving Day, which heralded, of course, the American-led military intervention to reposition Grenada back as a democracy. Folks, why is this not allowed or was not all around, you know, to help our young people and our people in general be edified with knowledge? You see, when this is absent, you cannot blame people for looking forward to the past, because the past would be vacant of their knowledge of what has actually happened. We cannot go back to the past, folks, as an independent nation. And that is why when I juxtapose Grenada with Singapore, it is a telling juxtaposition. Singapore could be 60 years an independent nation, and they could have so many things to celebrate, and we are only qualified to observe independence here in Grenada because of the disgraceful leadership that we have been privy to, where there's just pittance, crumbs being thrown out there to establish a vote farm to keep an evil con man in office, while there's just no development, no true north development for the people of this country. And you want to tell me these same people want to rescue Grenada from what? Folks, y'all better stay awake, you know, because it's not going to be nice. And I warn you, I would be long gone, but you will eat the bread the devil need if you don't stop looking forward to the past. We have to reclaim our history, folks. And those of us who are enlightened, we have to stay in the forefront to shove all these brave, vulgar, dunce people back in their holes. Go to school. Go and learn to read. Go and learn to write. Stop reducing yourselves to pedestrian spectacles because of your functional illiteracy. I think I need to stop here, folks. I am in, I am out, and I am gone. Thanks for joining. Continue to share. See you next week at the same time, same place, for more extraordinary programming. Until then, stay safe, stay well, remain vigilant, stay lifted, stay focused, please. Remember, next week is going to be just as fiery because you have another piece of history to get from that yet unpublished This Is My Island history that I've written. So stay tuned, folks. It's all coming to you. You can find me on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, and YouTube. Just type in my name, Edward or Eddie Frederick. Not fake name, Edward or Eddie Frederick. Live and direct. Subscribe, like, and share. And be prepared to receive your mental multivitamins as straight up as I deliver them. So peace and blessings to you all. To level, have a great one now. And remember, stay well, huh? Stay well. It's all good.
Eddie Frederick has got it all. Inspiration, motivation, great advice, and biting opinion pieces as only Eddie Frederick can deliver. Eddie Frederick has got it all.
This has been Edification, made possible by the efforts of the Center for Democracy and Good Governance, CDGG. The Center for Democracy and Good Governance is a sound organization established to promote and strengthen democracy. For too long now, our generally perceived poorly educated electorate have fallen victim to the cheap and inferior propaganda of those seeking to hold others captive under the guise of democracy. Gladly, the CDGG uses edification to help to actively pursue a sustainable approach to reorient our people towards the importance of electing and selecting people of good character to public life. Through edification, we will highlight the importance of education appropriate to our development, proper healthcare and facilities as our right, respect for law and order, not to mention upgrading our people's thinking so they could become qualified participants in the democratic process to their advantage. After all, Grenada's national constitution makes allowances for the ideal of free men to enjoy freedom from fear and want, which can be best achieved if conditions are created whereby everyone may enjoy his economic, social and political, civil and cultural rights.
I want the best for my family, so every meal has to be perfect. Every bite has to say, There's no doubt in my mind that the best in frozen meats and vegetables has to come from the Country Cold Store. Hams, turkeys, sausages, beef, pork, chicken. I just don't know my family is in safe hands. Thank you, Country Cold Store, for being there for us for the past 40 years.
There are some interesting specials available at Country Cold Store's Mini Mart while stocks last. Take advantage of these specials as they assist you to stretch your limited funds.
The Country Cold Store, providing the best in frozen meats and vegetables since 1969.
The hurricane season is now upon us, so we as Caribbean people need to remember to think safely and be prepared. Avoid venturing outside during a storm or hurricane, especially if there are strong winds. Rooftops and other debris are often blown about and can cause great damage.
Attention all forward-thinking companies. Sure, you can do with a continuous positive boost to your image and impact your bottom line. Hiring the right people with the right attitude and mindset is where to start. Even if you did not get it right through your current hiring methods, we can help develop the right mindset for your current employees. If you think training is expensive, try not training, and you will experience a perpetual downward spiral in patronage on account of increased dissatisfied customers. Take things into your hands and engage the best at motivation and customer care training with a tried and tested track record. Visit www.efrederick.com now and learn how you can change the atmosphere in your business and improve the customer experience for everyone who does business with you. Spice Island Beach Resort and Belmont Estate are two such local entities of world renown that have benefited tremendously from ongoing customer care, social skills, and motivation training. Training changes everything for the better for any business and every team member. Enhance employee performance through increased awareness and passion for the job at hand. Greater awaits you through engaged, high-energy training that works. Log on now, www.efrederick.com.
Eddie Frederick has got it all. Inspiration, motivation, great advice, and biting opinion pieces as only Eddie Frederick can deliver. Eddie Frederick has got it all.
Take time and I write down all the things that I love on my island. Best believe the list gon' be like 5 miles long. Best believe it's love that makes me sing this song. The cleanest breeze on the waters. Friendly people meet in every corner. Togetherness and love is what stand for. Stand for.
Oh, island in the sun. Look at how we've grown, how far we've run. 50 years we strong and more to come. More to come. More to come. Going higher. 50 years we're blessed with fortune fire. Still reaching for more.